Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2022. And again, we call it that time because of the Catholic Church. Of course, it was Pope Gregory the 13th, who the Gregorian calendar is named after, that declares this the end of the year. And to close out the year in the time of death, which is winter, what do we have? We have the death of the last Pope, the first German Pope in forever, and most people will completely miss the sick joke that is him dying at age 95 on this day. Of course, out of Germany, where Pope Benedict was from, came the 95 Theses written by Martin Luther, and that was pinned to the door of Castle Church October 31st, 1517. So 505 years ago. But again, the 95 Theses led the Protestant Reformation against the Catholic Church. And it's also what led to a lot of people sailing across the Atlantic to America because they were fleeing the rule of the Catholic Church, which was the governmental force of Europe. And really still is, just like it's the governmental force of America. It's just most people don't recognize it, even though all there is Roman architecture in the nation's capital. But again, the Jesuits were created by the Catholic Church as a military order to kill Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation, which was led by the 95 Theses. So again, Martin Luther from Germany writes the 95 Theses, then comes the Jesuits, who came after the German Pope Benedict, Pope Francis, the first Jesuit Pope. And of course, the Jesuits were created in Paris, France by Ignatius of Loyola. Now, the reason the thumbnail also has Martin Luther King Jr. in the picture is because, of course, he was assassinated on the 95th day of 1968, a year to the day of speaking out against the U.S. military. And again, the U.S. government is run by the Jesuit order. It's why the federal city was moved to the Jesuit stronghold of Washington, D.C., where the Jesuits have been there for longer than the federal government. And again, it starts to make sense, right? They build a military empire there. The Jesuits are a military order on behalf of the Roman Catholic Church. A year to the day of MLK speaking out, he gets assassinated on the 95th day of the leap year, 3 days before the Club of Rome was created. That was on April 7th, 68, like Vatican's 47, like government's 47, like authorities 47, if you know the knowledge of Gematria, Kabbalistic practice, which the Jesuits practice. For the record, just the fact that the 95 Theses was pinned on October 31st, it's funny because we now call that day Halloween, which has a gematria of 95. But anyhow, the ritual is as clear as day. Why he dies at 95, the German Pope after the first Jesuit Pope. And adding insult to injury, he's dead 14 days after Pope Francis's birthday. In gematria, dead equals 14. Again, it's a very simple practice. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. Again, go back to your 16th century. The Jesuits are created. English is standardized with the 26-letter alphabet. The Gregorian calendar rolls out. For the record, the word Pope equals 52, like how we have a 52-week year, and now here's a Pope dead at the end of this, again, calendar named after a Pope. But dead, 4 letters, all single digit. D's the 4th letter, E's the 5th, A's the 1st, D's the 4th. Dead, 14. The word end, if you use the alphabetic order, equals 23, but if you use numerology, it equals 14 as well. E is the 5th letter, N is the 14th letter. The numerology of 14 is 1 plus 4 is 5, so E is 5 in the numerology cipher, just like N is, and D is the 4th letter, so it's also 4. So you have 5 plus 4, dead and end, both equal 14. The end of Pope Benedict's life, his death, 14 days after the first Jesuit popes, again, to close out the calendar year that we know, thanks to the Catholic Church. And shout out to Bamboo Soldier in the chat at the beginning. He's saying, Happy New Year, everyone. Again, I understand he's just being friendly, but in a way, I'm like, again, we understand the language, the spells, spelling. Shouldn't we all just stop observing this? Shouldn't we stop calling this New Year's Eve? Because it's not. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense on any level that we call this the end of the year and the start of a new year. It's only according to the Catholic Church, And again, it literally makes zero sense. It's like humanity needs to rebel against all these authorities that have everyone obeying lies, nonsensical lies that make no sense every single day. The New Year was traditionally celebrated in the spring when you'd go outside and things were anew. Oh my God, the flowers are blooming. The leaves are coming back. It is the New Year. It made sense. Now what are we celebrating as the New Year? Look outside. Everything's dead. Trees dead. Few leaves hanging on the branches. All the flowers are dead. This doesn't make any sense. The Catholic Church has everybody doing things that don't make any sense. We know that the Catholic Church began as a pagan sun cult that celebrated the sun's birthday on 12/25. Then they give you a new language where sun now means male offspring too. Means object in the sky and male offspring. And if you read the Bible, you can tell that Jesus' birthday is in the summer, based on what's written about that time and the astrological alignments. When does the Catholic Church have everybody celebrating Jesus' birthday? Right at the end of their year that they created. Anyhow, it's not hard to see why Pope Benedict is dead at 95. And as we talked about the other day, when the headline broke on the 28th that he was very sick, it was 11 days after the Pope's birthday in Gematria. Pope does equal 52 if you use the alphabetic order. If you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Pope equals 56, just like the word 3. Here we are 3 days later, and he's dead, 3 days after this very sick headline. But again, if you use numerology, instead of Pope equaling 56 in reverse, it equals 11. Pope equals 11 in reverse with numerology. The very sick headline broke 11 days after Pope Francis's birthday, and now here we are on the 31st, which is the 11th prime number. 31, the 11th prime. We talked about this earlier this year when Bill Russell died by the numbers. He won 11 championships and died on the 31st of July, which is the day in history the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola, died. And again, that was the last day of the first Jesuit Ignatian year. Longtime Celtics. Celtics had just lost in the finals to the Warriors, as we predicted, because the entire finals was set on Pope Francis' birthday, December 17th, 2021, when the Celtics fell to 7-5 at home against the Warriors in the 75th NBA season, where the Warriors went on to beat Boston in Boston, about the most Catholic city in America, becoming 7-5 in NBA Finals and picking up their 75th road win all time in the playoffs when Catholic Church equals 75 in Gematria. Again, all roads lead to Rome. Presidential elections rigged with Rome. Speaking of Rome, the word Rome equals 51. Look at what day they're having the funeral for Benedict. January 5th, 5-1. The 5th day of the year, when 5 is highly associated with the satanic. That's why in the nation's war capital, you have the 5-sided War Department, 5 floors above ground, 5-acre court in the middle, across from the 555-foot tall Washington Monument. Again, the Catholic Church is a death cult, a pagan sun death cult, spreading their evil and tyranny across the world and packaging it in something nice. You know? Wolves in sheep's clothing. And again, because they've spread this religion and, these beliefs systems, the word with lie right in the middle, you see how many of the biggest frauds in the world have adopted these same tactics to deceive and con people in a million different ways. Yesterday, I was in a live stream with somebody who's recently claimed to become a Christian and a follower of Jesus, yet all their live streams are about is how they're the greatest person in the world, they're the best-looking person in the world, they're one of the best athletes in the world who's not a professional athlete, they're one of the most handsome people in the world, they're one of the smartest people in the world. Again, it's just total self-worship channel. But it's amazing that he's sucking in other Christians by just also dropping in the line, and I really believe in Jesus. It's like, you know what's funny? If you know what I'm talking about, there was a woman who hosted this guy yesterday, and I talked to her this morning, and she's going to put out a video, but I'm going to put out the message before, because she's going to put out and back up the same thing. I already know this guy's a criminal crook, because he's a total scumbag, and he's another scumbag who claims Jesus. But this scumbag, they're both over in the UK, and she invited him to come out and pound pavement and get out the knowledge of gematria. She flew out here to Seattle to do the same thing with me. And he refused to go out with her, but then that night he was trying to get her to come over and spend the night at his house. So he didn't want to go out and teach gematria with her, but he wanted her to come over, and we all know when a guy just wants a woman to come over at night what he really wants. So, and again, if you watched the stream yesterday, you also heard this guy who's all about Jesus, supposedly, when he's not bragging about himself for God knows what reason. There's really nothing to brag about. False resume full of lies. But again, I'm bringing this up because this is what, for all of you guys who hate on me because I say I grew up Christian but then went away from the church, again, it's because of people like him. He reminds me of what the average Christian is. The Catholic Church reminds me of what the average Christian is. This isn't to say that all Christians are bad. It's like I always say, a good Christian in this community is Jeremy White. I always bring up that point. You know why I always say Jeremy White's a good guy? Because he's humble, honest, solid, never has a bad word to say about anything. I know Jeremy White in his mind probably has 50 negative things he could say about me. He doesn't do it. You know why he doesn't do it? Because he's a good guy. Because he's like a real Christian. He's not in the place to judge. He's like, I'm sure if you could go into Jeremy's mind, he would say, you know, for all the things that Zach's wrong about, God will judge him for that. I'm not going to do anything that. And all Zach's really ever done for me is brought me knowledge and helped me improve my financial situation. But you see all these other Christians that make videos attacking me, snakes in the grass. And then the same people who will curl up next to a guy like the Delusion, who literally said that the only reason he got into the gematria community, if you paid attention to his words, if you read between the lines of everything he said he has no hope that gematria will ever spread. He has no hope it'll ever change the world. And really his only purpose is to make money off it by giving out sports picks, which he learned from me how to do. And then yesterday I embarrassed him because he's like, I don't understand why you don't just give the pick rather than show people the breakdown. And I said, well, imagine if all I ever did was just give out the pick. Would have you have learned how to do gematria? No. And my whole point was to teach people, and so they can do exactly what you're doing. My whole point was to help out people. So again, that guy's literally in stream saying I'm transgender, I'm satanic. You don't hear me just sitting here just gloating about myself for 90% of every stream and putting down the person I learned from. And by the way, I didn't learn from anyone. I pioneered this whole thing. And again, for all of you guys who just subscribe to somebody because they say they believe in Jesus, realize it's easy to say you believe in Jesus and not mean it all. There's a ton of people that do it in this truth community because they know it's a good way to get donations and supporters. Because again, it is the Christians who've been conditioned to go to church every Sunday, thanks to the sun cult. I mean, all this stuff's so obvious, but they've just been conditioned to donate. Oh, I donate to other Christians. I give money to other Christians. That's the mind control, the programming. How many actual Christians are good people in this world? If I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say maybe 10%. Maybe 10%. And again, you know, people need to wake up and pay attention to what's really going on in the world. You know, going to church, how many people in the church are acting on their best behavior, and then as soon as they get out of the church, you know, they're like godless heathens. A lot of people that way. And that's kind of where the church came from in the first place, right? Because they said, oh, all these things you're doing, which are human nature, are evil. But if you come back to the church here on Sunday and put some money in our plate and buy our little indulgence, then God will forgive you. And again, you guys, I mean, you look at every criminal in the world who's putting their hand on the Bible. Pretty much every criminal politician's putting their hand on the Bible. How many people are going in the courtroom, putting their hand on the Bible and telling a bunch of lies? Pay attention to what religion really is. The facts mount every single day. And again, for all the people who would say, well, the Catholic Church isn't really about Jesus, the only reason you know that name is because of the Catholic Church. The only reason you know the name Jesus is because of the Catholic Church. And again, let's not forget that in Gematria, just using the most simple cipher, Jesus, Lucifer, cross, Messiah, gospel, parables, occult, energy, English, Gematria, killing, holiday, London, speaking of English, they're all 74 words. The religion, the government, the nation. Here we are. We're the Christian English-speaking nation, right? Created after this huge Jesuit, essentially, takeover of Europe and then following across the Atlantic to the people trying to flee. This is the nation created in that aftermath, the nation with the 7-4 birthday. And again, you learn the code, you see how it all works. Isus Hominum Salvator, the Jesuit motto, 274. The Catholic Church celebrating the sun's birthday since 274 AD. The Jesuit logo is the letters for those words with the sun. Run it in reverse. Isus Hominum Salvator, 266. Pope Francis, the 266th Pope, the first Jesuit, the one who came to D.C. on the 266th day of the year. And again, I don't think I've ever seen a bigger spectacle in D.C. in my life than when the Pope came, the first Jesuit Pope. So, again, you guys, 31, the 11th prime. Pope has the gematria of 11. He's sick 11 days after Francis' birthday, now dead on this day. Again, Bill Russell, the 11-time champion, dead on the 31st, the anniversary of Ignatius Loyola. Pope's also 56, like 3 days after the very sick story. Remember, that phrase had gematria of 112, like the Jesuits operate in 112 countries, like Catholicism and mathematics are 112. Again, run it the other way, Pope 52, in the most simple cipher, like the 52-week calendar. New Year's Eve, for the record, also has the 52, in light of him dying that day. From his birthday, April 16th, to his death today, 259 days. We've seen this pattern many times. Roman Catholicism is 259. If you use numerology, it's also 97, like Capricorn. He's dead in the time of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Pope Francis, born on Saturnalia. We talked about this last night with Barbara Walters, who started The View in 97 and dying 97 days, she died on the 97th day of her 81, but again, we talked about where Barbara Walters' death fell in with Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, which equals 93, and her death at age 93. But again, it factors in here as well, him dying at this time. He's born on the 106th day of the year, meaning he also died 106 days before his birthday. Prophecy is 106. Again, we know who's contriving the prophecy by the numbers. We documented this very well in the contrived pandemic that was all by the code of revelation and led by all kinds of Jesuits, from Klaus Schwab to Donald Trump to Joe Biden to Gavin Newsom to Cuomo and so on and so forth, with the revelation prophecy numbers all over it. And also interesting, from the anniversary of the pinning of the 95 Theses to the death, and again, Martin Luther was German, to the death of the German Pope at 95, it's 61 days later. Remember, church equals 61, so does Christian, so does Christmas, so does cross, so does Jesus. We're just about how Jesus and cross are 74. That's when you run it forwards. When you run it in reverse, it's 61. You could also say it's a span of 62 days. Benedict and sacrifice are 62. Pope Benedict dead in the clear tribute to the Jesuits and the Catholic Church's history, opposing the 95 Theses. By the way, the word Catholic also equals 46, like how JFK was killed at 46 and Biden became number 46 exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. Martin Luther died in the year 1546. 1546, Catholic. And with regards to the Saturn 93 thing, and this happening in the time of Capricorn, notice his funeral will be at 9:30 a.m. local time. January 5th, Rome, 51, just like federal. Again, the federal city moved to Rome on the Potomac, Washington, D.C., which was once, the land was once owned by Francis Pope, not to be confused with Pope Francis. It'll be in St. Peter's Square. Think of all the work Rambo's done on that subject. And let me think about something real quick. So New Year's Day is going to fall on a Sunday. So it's 4 days later. So it's going to be on Thursday. His funeral's on Thursday. And here's what people need to know about Thursday. Let me pull up the Gematria calculator. Again, Thursday is named after Jupiter. So St. Peter's Square on Thursday, Jupiter Day. And remember, Thursday has the gematria 35 forwards, 46 in reverse, just like Catholic. Holy See has the 35. The word I has the 35, 46. Again, the eye of God. To the occult is the sun. Genesis 3:5 about the eyes of God. The eye went on the US dollar bill in 1935. The eye with the sun rays coming off of it. So, and again, for anyone who doubted what Rambo said so long ago, Rambo's always got critics in my comments too. Rambo's not right about St. Peter and Jupiter. Okay. You still think he's wrong? Really? I mean, this couldn't be a more obvious ritual. A Thursday in St. Peter. Looks like Rambo's dead on about Peter and Jupiter and Jesus. Remember, Jupiter is Zeus in astrology. I wonder where the name Jesus comes from. And again, for all the people who just get hurt so easily, it's like I told the story from a little more than a week ago. I did have the woman praying in front of me to Jesus, and something really weird did happen with my eyes. My eyes did become like scaled. Like all of a sudden my vision became all blurry, and it looked like there was a big halo around her. And I was like, okay. There is a meaning to what's going on to me right now. It lasted for like 20 seconds. And again, I've had some interesting stories in recent times. I met Jesus, who went by Jesus, or he went by Jesse because he got tired of people accidentally calling him Jesus. Then I met Luciano like a couple days later, and then I met Hilda, and I was like, why am I having these conversations in successive days with Jesus, Luciano, and Hilda? What is the meaning of this? But again, it's obvious that they contrived the name Jesus in tribute to Zeus, Jupiter. Again, it is all astrotheology. But if there ever was a mortal man to walk the earth who was the Son of God, which is a story that's been told many times besides just Jesus, maybe God recognizes the name Jesus. I'm not saying that's not possible, but I'm saying none of us would know this name without the Catholic Church. And also, about the time 930, the Saturn piece does fit in a big way. Again, Saturn's 93. Notice how Mithra is 93, because that's the old god that the Romans celebrated before Jesus on the sun's birthday, and he's also a sun god, Mithra. But remember, God's sun is 93, crucifix is 93, Nazareth, Jesus' birthplace, which is also a place in the stars and astrology, Nazareth is 93, and what the pagans call the sun, and it's the birthday of the solar man on December 25th. Solar man is 93, like how they say the sun is 93 million miles away on average. And we've talked about this so many times. Saturn having the 93 value, which is the keeper of time to the occult, and the sun being told that it's 93 million miles away when it's the keeper of time for pretty much all of us on this Gregorian calendar. And again, occultists like Aleister Crowley worshiping the number 93. Don't forget the Illuminati, founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. The 93 is in their title. The Jesuits are a Saturnian order who worship the sun and Saturn, 93. And if you guys notice that Order of Illuminati and Saturnian Order both have the 201, so does the Jesuit Order. That's why Pope Francis, again, is the first Jesuit Pope and the first to live in Suite 201. And his birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, is 201, like the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola, is 201. But yeah, 930, 5-1, couldn't be any more obvious. Couldn't be any more obvious. And, I guess just one more thing. It'll be 19 days after Pope Francis' birthday. The old name for Jesus, before the J's were brought to English, Jesus 92. It's also 35, going with the sun's birthday on 12/25, the number that has a square root of 35. And there was somebody, I know that in one of the streams I did yesterday, I mentioned how the person in the comments said they think Benedict will die on the 31st. I said that could make sense. 11th prime. Sure enough. We see it every year. All these big deaths. New Year's Eve, New Year's, this whole time. Christmas period. There's huge deaths every year in this time. Always so ritualistic. And again, for people who are new here, Gematria comes from Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, the Jesuits were created by a merger of Jews and Catholics to counter the Protestant Reformation. Why did Jews come together with Catholics? Because Martin Luther also wrote the book, The Jews and Their Lies, and was speaking out against Judaism. He thought they were the corrupting forces of Europe. He thought you could not have a Christian society with the corrupting forces of the Catholic Church and Judaism. And that's the history that's not really told. So, all right, we got a D26 sighting. He wants to chime in here. Let me put D26 on. What's up, D26?
Hello, I'm good. Well, first of all, our communication is time traveling because it's already 2023 over here.
Well,
so
that's why you're always ahead of us too. So appreciate it, D26. He's ahead of us in more ways than one. Brilliant guy here.
So I remember we talked about this a couple of times that Benedict will not be alive for further than mid of January. I always said that he would die before January or in mid-January. So early morning when I got the news, I was working somewhere else and I was going to call you up a couple of hours later, before right now. So I'm reading your article. You mentioned about 106, that he dies 106 days before his birthday. I got a couple of things to add. I also tweeted it before you went on live stream, because I assume that it must be early morning over there, so I didn't disturb you before. So his name which he took upon the resurrection called the Saturn's Day, and Saturday is the 6th day, and the planet Saturn is the 6th planet. So 6th day equals 106. He is from Bavaria, which is modern day Germany. Germany equals 106. What's also interesting that not only he dies 106 days before his birthday, he's the longest living pope. If you write the phrase the longest living pope, that equals 106. And if you count as a span of days, which is 107, ritual sacrifice equals 107. And also one more thing to add, if you write Pope Emeritus, that equals 63. Like the Berlin Wall equals 63, which was in Germany, a big thing about Germany, which was brought down on 9/11, but the way how the world writes it as 9th of November, which is 52 days left in the year, and Pope equals 52. These are the things that I found recently, and while you were doing some on the live stream just before I called you, I noticed something else. But if you have anything to add, let me know that. I wanted to talk over you, but just let me know what else did you see? I didn't know what I said.
Well, I just presented everything that I saw. But yeah, these are great additions.
And let me just give me a minute. Do you have anything to say? I hope I'm not running you over.
No, I already said pretty much everything I had to say. So you're just chiming in with some other great observations.
Also, he dies he dies in the 96th year of his life. The place where he dies, Mater, I don't know how to pronounce this, Mater Ecclesiae Monastery, that equals 96.
Did you say 96?
Yeah, Mater Ecclesiae Monastery, the place where he dies, that equals 96.
Whenever I think 96, I always think the words Freemason are 96, Satanism is 96, knowledge is 96. It has a relationship with 16, like how the Jesuits were credited in the 16th century.
And even the Queen died at the age 96.
Right.
Recently.
Yeah.
A big figure.
Well, if we're going to bring that up, let's not forget that she died in a huge Catholic ritual on the Virgin Mary's birthday, and had Mary in her birth name. So.
I don't know if I ever told you that, but it was kind of funny for me because I kind of joked to my friend early morning that day in my class that, do you know it's Jesus' mom's birthday? And he just like a chuckle. And later that day, I had the news that she actually died. And what's interesting is that only that day in India, there was like crazy rains just on that day. There was no rains before that. There was no rain after that for an entire week. But only that day, the day Queen died, it was raining like crazy in Mumbai, at least in my city. But anyways, that's it. Maybe that's not a worthwhile detail. But I got something else about this. You covered a good detail there, which I was going to call, which is what I found recently when just before your live stream, is that his funeral is being on Thursday, right? Which is Thor's Day, the Norse god Thor. And if you write Thor's Day, that equals 106. Like he dies 106 days before his birthday.
I see.
And since he dies on Saturn Day, which is what I said, and Saturn equals 93, and his funeral is going to be taking place on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. That's interesting. Like the connection with Norse mythology as well as with the Roman mythology.
Very good. Yeah, makes perfect sense. So.
There are a few things that I missed out, but all I could do in the last 5 minutes. I just came from cycling, so that's all I got.
Well, great work as always.
Also, recently, the Prime Minister, the Indian Prime Minister, Modi, Narendra Modi's mom died at age 99 yesterday. So it was 30th of December, I guess, for you guys.
Okay.
I got to cover that as well. They haven't covered, but I guess BBC has covered it. That's the only biggest article that I saw recently, is that BBC has covered it. No, there's no Wikipedia page for his mother. But yeah, it was expected. She was 99 years. She was almost 100 years old. I'm just thinking, when will Henry Kissinger die? Because that guy is still alive, 100 years old probably.
Yeah.
Anyways, if I won't take further than this. But thanks for picking up my call.
You're welcome.
Everyone else over there. It's already 2023 over here.
All right. Well, you are welcome, and thanks for chiming in as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, man. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, you too.
All right. D26. If you guys aren't following him on Twitter, he does have a YouTube page. D26 space creates. He creates really good content, and his Twitter is at you may call me D26, and very brilliant guy. So God's Node noticed that if you count the distance from his death to his upcoming birthday is also 3 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days. 322. Remember, Benedict's from Bavaria, where Adam Weishaupt, the Jesuit, was from, who founded the Illuminati, and he ended up dying on the 322nd day of the year, of course, 201 days after the anniversary of the Illuminati's establishment. And we're just talking about 201 with the Illuminati and the Jesuits. But don't forget, the Holy Bible equals 201, and Genesis 3:22 is, again, about referencing the Kabbalistic tree of life, knowing good and evil, the tree of life, the physical model for Kabbalah, 3 pillars, 22 paths. And in this case, here we are at the end of 22, and he's dead 3 days after the headline about him being very sick. So, again, here's the headline from just days ago, December 28th, very sick. I should also mention, because I think I forgot to mention in this stream, I did cover this the other day, but Pope Francis is 86 years old right now. He became Pope days after his birthday. And the last French Pope, Pope Francis, and the Jesuits from France, the last French Pope died on March 27th, the 86th day of the Gregorian year. And in Gematria, Jesuits equals 86. And it's also a number that has a lot to do with death and getting rid of. And shortly after the 86th birthday, the German Pope's gone. 86th, like they did to Martin Luther, who wrote the 95 Theses. All right, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. For me, Saturday is the worst day of the week because I have the most work to do every day on Saturdays. So I got about 6 hours of grinding on the Sports Decode. By the way, I am about 100 Patreon members off the goal that I said I wanted to hit if I was going to go down to LA January 26th. There's 100 people out there who want to see me in LA on January 26th, the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death, talking about his death at age 5. My word, if we hit the goal, because if we don't hit the goal, then it's up to me to decide if I want to go down there or not. And I got to be honest, I do want to go down there, but again, there's a part of me that keeps going, Zach, you went all over this year and you lost a lot of supporters and you've never had more people working against you, so again, my purpose is to build the movement, build resources so we can do bigger things. And if pounding pavement and going to places on the anniversary of things isn't it, then maybe I won't. But I got a little bit to think about it. But if we do hit the goal, then you'll lock me in at my word and I got to be there no matter what. So anyhow, shout out to Kayla Decode Talker. It's okay, Kayla. Kayla could have decoded the whole thing even better than I did. She doesn't even need to watch the stream. But again, you guys, make sure you are supporting everyone in the community who does the good work. Kayla Decode Talker, Itachi, Disambiguation 144. Daria, are you putting anything on your YouTube channel yet? If Daria is not, she should, because she's an excellent decoder. She always has really great observations. I haven't talked about my book lately because I put it on the back burner. I got to tell you, man, this last year was really frustrating. So I've had the feeling that nothing I do is good enough, so I just haven't been able to accomplish any of the goals or complete them, I should say. I've written about 1,000 pages for a book that's intended to be under 100 pages, and I just haven't felt satisfied enough to put it out. Because I don't want the next book to be disappointing in terms of the audience it receives like the last 2 books. And yeah, anyway, I do need to finish it, but I did put everything on the back burner. Totally dropped out. I don't know if you just heard what I was saying, but if you want to watch what I said for 2023 upcoming, that video's on GematriaEffectNews 22. Interesting. Well, Amy's another one that's just too generous, who does the great work and donates. But Amy points out that Benedict's dead 17 years and 257 days after he took his position, and like she wrote in her super chat, and blood sacrifice does equal 257. And then the one other thing that I see in those numbers is God, because 257 is the 55th prime, and of course God also has the 17 connection. And if you guys are new here, look into the Marilyn Manson song Say 10, where he spells it S-A-Y with the number 10. When you say God, I say Satan. Satan is 55 and 10, just like God is. And again, 55 is the 10th triangular number and the 10th Fibonacci number. And interestingly enough, if you write out numerology, it's 55. If you write out Fibonacci, it's 55. And they say the Fibonacci sequence is the mathematical pattern of God, like God's fingerprint, because it shows up in so much of creation in terms of living things. But again, you have people on this earth that want to play God, like the Catholic Church, and they do things by these mathematical patterns. I guess just to close out with one more thought on that, by the mathematical code. But notice how church is 61. Christian is 61. In Jewish gematria, God is 61. Jesus is 61. Cross is 61. Again, Christmas is 61. Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, means geometry in language. In sacred geometry, the shape that represents God is made out of 61 overlapping circles, the flower of life. And again, from the anniversary of the posting of the 95 Theses on Halloween, which is the day leaving 61 days left in the year, Halloween, 95, fitting day for the 95 Theses. But think about it. That happened in Germany with Martin Luther. Now the German Pope's dead at 95, 61 days later, in this ritual and tribute to the church. Here, I just want to check one more thing before I sign off. I just want to check the gematria where the funeral's at. I get the whole thing with St. Peter's and them doing it on a Thursday. St. Peter's Square. I just got to see. St. Peter's 103 and 86 like Jesuits. St. Peter's also 31 the 11th prime, and he's dead on the 31st, the last day of the year. St. Peter, and he's dead on the 31st, the last day of the year. St. Peter's Square. Then That's interesting. Okay, you see the 85? Today's date numerology, 12 plus 31 plus 20 plus 22 for 5. Also 59. Pope Francis, just for the record, is 59. It wasn't an accident that it was 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, why Biden would be number 46. Benedict stepped down on the 59th day of the year, February 28th, to make room for Francis. So it's interesting how this fits in. Again, I imagine they probably... well, I have to look in history. Do they always have the Pope's funeral there? I mean, they very well might, but it fits in extra tight with this one. Of course, 59 is also the reflection of 95. And then the Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, in light of him being dead on an 85 date numerology. Notice, the motto also has the 85. And again, the 274, like the Catholic Church has celebrated the Son's birthday on 12/25 since 274 AD. 266, like how the first Jesuit Pope is Pope Francis, the 266th Pope in the history of the Church. And the 122 also goes with Pope Francis. And for the record, so does Satanic, and so does San Francisco, because again, the Satanic Church was established in San Francisco on the 122nd Meridian West. And San Francisco is named after St. Francis of Assisi, which is who Pope Francis says he's named after. And again, Pope Francis has kind of muddied the waters on where the Catholic Church stands with abortion 122, Roe v. Wade decision on January 22nd year, Alito, another Jesuit. The whole Supreme Court's pretty much Catholic and Jesuit. It's the entire Supreme Court's Catholic and Jewish, and the Jesuits, again, are a Catholic-Jewish alliance. So think about that. Think about their black witches' grounds. Think about how they sense and go along with nonsense and seemingly not see through everything. Fall for every villain, hate every hero. Because that's pretty much the world we live in. And Adam Golick said, how do fractions and decimals factor into gematria? They might, but I've never incorporated fractions or decimals. Maybe other than, okay, you know what? I guess we kind of did this. I see that my stream keeps dropping out right now. I'm sure the Jesuit... For the record, you guys, Google celebrates its birthday on September 27th, the day leaving 95 days left in the year, which is the day the Jesuits were recognized by Roman history. How could I forget to get that in? Again, the Catholic Church recognized the Jesuits on the day leaving 95 days left in the year. But here, just to show you something. Jesuit order, 14472. We had a caller this Wednesday, and he said, Zach, have you ever thought about how 216, which is the product of 6 times 6 times 6, the number of the beast, the mark of the beast, notice how mark of the beast is also 144, like Jesuit order, also 81, like how Kobe scored his career high, 81 in his 666th game. For the record, Kobe Bean Bryant, his full name's 5481, like Mark of the Beast. But anyway, coming back to the point. Mark of the Beast, 144. Jesuit Order, 144. 6 times 6 times 6, again, is 216. 66.6% of that number is 144. 54 as well, like how Sun equals 54 in the most simple cipher. Sun cult. Jesuit Order also 72. The sun moves 1 degree on the astrological wheel every 72 years. So... And the 153 is the 17th triangular number, like God's 17, like Holy Bible's 153, like Jesus and the miraculous catch of 153 fish. So again, gematria, alphabetic order, forwards and backwards. I see that my connection's dropping in and out. And again, you guys, just let this be a reminder, because my connection's rock solid through this is called tampering, but it's just a reminder. Here, I'll show you something in case you didn't know this. Google celebrates birthday September 27th. Let's pull it up. And then they were recognized by Rome September 27th, 1540, 154, like Saturnalia's 154. But again, that's the day leaving 95 days left in the year. And their original purpose on behalf of the church was to counter the 95 Theses. Martin Luther would die 6 years later, like Saturn's the 6th planet, and they're also a Saturnian order. And keep in mind that from his death today, Benedict, to his funeral on the 5th is a total span of 6 days. It's 5 days later, but a total span of 6 days, like Saturn's the 6th planet, dead in the time of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. If you spell out 6 as a word, it has gematria 52 like Pope. But here, just for the person that doesn't know that September 27th leaves 95 days left in the year, here it is. Jesuits are all about that 95. And if you've never noticed this before, 666 days, 666, is 95 weeks and 1 day. And also, I see the connection keeps dropping. If you write out 666, it's also got the 95. And again, we know the Bible as we know it because of the Catholic Church. So, okay. MC Wave chipped in $2, thank you. And Carl Streener chipped in $1.49 in the British pounds. Hope you're feeling better, Carl, man. You don't need to give me any more donations. Make sure you take care of those medical bills. Hope you're doing better. And A. Smith chipped in $7 and said, hey, Zach, create or hire someone on the comm to create a deck of cards with numbers on them. Put a QR code that leads to a page with an explanation. The only problem with QR codes that we learned about is those companies can disable your QR code if somebody reports it, because we had that done earlier this year. We had QR codes put on something and then the QR code didn't work anymore. But yeah, I still do like the idea. Maybe we should put out a version of tarot cards with the Gematria explanation. By the way, the oldest known tarot deck also goes back to Italy. Tarot 74, that's not originally where tarot's from, but the oldest known deck goes back to Italy. Tarot 74, like Gematria, like English, like occult, like Masonic, like Holiday, like Jesus, like Lucifer, like English, like Gematria, like London, again, like Cross, Gospel, Story of Jesus, Parables, He spoke in riddles. Again, who speaks in riddles? Speak to be understood. You would think Jesus should have known that, right? Speak to be understood, not speak in riddles. This Catholic Church is speaking in riddles every day. Yeah, again, you guys, they are cutting out the signal right now, and it's total tampering because, again, I guarantee you there's somebody assigned at Google to watch and harass, and when information's more crucial than others, that's when they got to super interfere. We know usually, it's just like, the day that we had over 5,000 people in the live stream got sabotaged, ended. My internet connection stopped working at my house. I couldn't even log back onto the internet for 2 days. That was the Super Bowl 55 live stream. Another future nailed. Both teams correct before the season began. And yeah, that was the most people we ever had on a live stream at once, and they had to terminate it. So, God forbid I expose their Roman Super Bowl. All right, we'll leave it there, you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Got to get back to work, back on the slave grind. And until next time.